Hello, and welcome to week 1 of Interoception, your body's hidden gift for personal transformation. I'm Rachel Astarte of Rachel Astarte Holistic Psychotherapy. I'm so glad that you're with us to start this amazing 4-week program. So let's talk about interoception. What is it? Why is it important? When we talk about holistic psychotherapy, we are actually talking about the individual as a whole. And so you may have heard the word transpersonal. This means using mind, body, and spirit to achieve a state of complete wellness. And in holistic psychotherapy, that's what we're really looking at. So talk therapy isn't necessarily enough for us to really go deep into the kind of healing we need. With interoception, we're focusing in this 4-week course basically on the body. But of course, our spirit and our mind will be coming along for the ride as well. Interoception is a word that I think is only just beginning to get a little bit of traction. And I think it is a beautiful description of the inner work that we do, and literally the inner work that we do, that we're going to be doing. And I'll coach you through how do we use our knowledge of our body for healing as we move through the course. So let's dive in and talk about the definition. So in a very basic sense, interoception is the feeling of knowing what is happening in your body. So for example, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, if you're hungry or thirsty or warm or cold, that's from Cambridge Dictionary, in case anyone wants to check that themselves. Any of the senses that detect conditions within the body, and that can mean many different things. It could be whether or not we know we have a fever, that kind of thing. And sensitivity to stimuli originating inside the body. This is just another way to say kind of the same thing. We're listening to our body. Our body is constantly speaking to us. I'm sure yours is speaking to you right now. And, could be anything. Could be you didn't get your coffee yet and you're feeling a little bit tired. That's your body speaking to you. And it's such a wonderful tool to use. That's a Wiktionary definition. I like to give these things so people know they can look these up themselves. So when we're listening to our bodies, we're better able to work toward our wellness with an entire different set of tools that maybe on some level we already knew was there, but now we're going to be able to really employ the body and use it as an ally toward our wellness. So what happens when we ignore our interoception? And we maybe ignore is a strong word, but when we're not paying attention to our bodies, there are a number of things that can happen. So mentally and emotionally, we may feel disconnected from our body when we are in conflict. A lot of people talk about being stressed out and sort of feeling like they've left their bodies. They're not present. We hear that phrase a lot. I just wasn't present in the conversation. Again, an inability to manage our stress or our conflict. That happens when we're not listening to the body. As we were just mentioning, there's a misalignment of our spirit, body, and our mind. And there's a reason that I put them in this order. When we look at our complete and holistic wellness, it really starts with our spirit. It really starts with our unique purpose for being here. That governs what happens within our bodies. And then we can make sense of it with our minds. Yeah, or you might also just feel a general feeling of being out of sorts. We all go through it. But what stops us at that point, we tend to stop there and say, yeah, I'm just having an off day, when we can actually use our bodies to get ourselves back into alignment. Now, physically, what this manifests as is a vagus nerve dysregulation. The vagus nerve is really part of what it functions to do is our automatic nervous system response. So fight, flight, freeze, So if we're not listening to our bodies, if we're not working with our bodies, we don't really know how to work ourselves through whichever of those responses come into being in a given situation. Our physical ailments may be prolonged. We're going to talk about this with more specifics later on. But for example, I'll give you a basic example. When you have a cold, let's say, a lot of us know, all right, you just kind of go through it. You just kind of wait for it to stop. But there are ways that we can work with our bodies to accelerate our healing. And that's what we'll be working on. General fatigue. When we are tired and our bodies our energy has been expended and our bodies are tired, when we're not listening to our bodies, that can actually cause us to feel more fatigued because we're not checking in with our bodies. A general susceptibility to illness also happens. We can call that stress. We can call that whatever situation that we're in where we're not checking in with our bodies. And again, we talked a little bit in the mental, emotional part of it. Inability to manage stress and conflict can leave us susceptible to illness. Our cortisol levels rise and stay at an elevated level, which actually causes inflammation, which then is the source of pretty much every ailment you're going to experience. So let's talk a little bit about what we will be covering and ideally what you will have experienced by the end of this course. You'll be able to listen to your body's messages. Now, some of them we already listen to. You know when you're hungry and you go eat. You know when you need to use the bathroom and you use the bathroom. You know when you need to sneeze and you sneeze. But we're looking at the deeper, or shall I say more subtle messages that our bodies are sending. When we do have fluctuating emotions, which we all do because we are human beings, you'll be able to manage them better. Being able to interact with our bodies allows us to transform our connection to ourselves, because everything starts with us, with the core. So transforming our connection to self and then necessarily to others. When we are rooted and centered, then our relationships with others tend to reflect the same. Again, we're going to realign our spirit, our body, and our mind for a more balanced life, given these exercises that we'll be working on throughout the course. And this is probably the most important part, being able to trust your body as an ally in your overall health. So I'm going to stress that one. Our ultimate goal is for you and your body to become best buddies, right? So we don't think about that. We don't think about how important that is. We're walking around with these bodies from the moment we are born, well, even before we're born. And we don't really often think of our bodies as anything other than this thing we carry around that feels good or it doesn't feel good, or it gets broken, or it's, or it's in great shape, and we exercise it and we give it medicine, but it's almost as though it's just this vessel instead of a big communicative being that we really can embrace as part of who we truly are. Okay, let's look at some examples. So some of the felt sense or physical examples of interoception. And again, we talked about these, but I think it's really important to stress them so that you are aware of how interoception looks for you. And that's a general note for this entire class. Yes, we're doing a little bit of lecture stuff here, which we will not necessarily be doing in the weeks that follow. It's much more of a practical course. But as I go through these lists, I'd really like you to start to look at this personally, not just academically. So the need to sneeze, think about your own need to sneeze. And it seems like a simple thing, but what is that like for you? Start to get familiar with the way your body works. Again, feeling hungry or thirsty. Pain, clearly, right? When you stub your toe, your body goes, hey, there's some injury here. The nerves are throbbing, and then that sends the message to your brain that you're in pain. Muscle tension. I actually, you probably just saw me massage my shoulder. I slept funny on my shoulder last night. So there, my body is talking to me saying, hey, push on that thing. So again, talking to our bodies in that way, when we regulate our body temperature or don't. So for example, here's a great example. Having a fever, yes, our bodies will let us know that we have an infection of some sort, and that's how we get a fever. That's an alert system. But I'm also thinking about perimenopause for those who are going through it or have gone through it. When you think of hot flashes or hot flushes, or we call power surges in my circle. Now, when I was going through menopause or perimenopause, I didn't have hot flashes. Instead, my body became unable to regulate its body temperature. And so I would get messages from my body all the time that I was freezing cold, and then I would have to pile on a bunch of sweaters and jackets and blankets, and then literally within 30 seconds later, I'd be dying and I'd have to take it all off again. And to some extent, even though I'm postmenopausal now, that still happens. But this is an example of my body speaking to me, and the obvious one, needing to use the restroom. So here's how it might show up emotionally or intellectually. And this makes sense to us, right? We've heard these sayings, I have butterflies in my stomach. Well, that's your nerve. That's your vagus nervous system, right? Saying, uh-oh, things might be a little problem here. I'm not sure if this is anxiety or excitement, but I'm getting butterflies. Having a gut feeling about something, right? You walk into a room and you see somebody's face and they look very angry, and you have a gut feeling that you're going to have a conflict with this person, for example. Pressure headaches, and some of us get those, right? That's stress. And so when we have a pressure headache, that is a pretty good indication that we need to maybe reassess how much is on our plate. Again, intuition in the form of inner knowing, and that's a little different from the gut feeling. There's inner knowing in a more global sense, or might say in a spiritual sense. For example, an inner knowing about our life path, right? If I'm called to be a dog groomer, if I'm called to be to work with sustainable or something in ecology like sustainable farming, if I'm called to be a healer, if I'm called to be a teacher, that's an inner knowing. This is my path, right? And I kind of capitalize the intuition because it's like capitalizing the capital S self, right? It's our highest self. And general self-awareness, right? So we walk around all day long, maybe being a bit asleep to what's going on internally. So self-awareness throughout your day is essential. We also want to look at our social understanding, right? How do we show up in the world? How do we interact with other people? Our bodies are constantly telling us not how to feel, but what you feel in a given moment. When you have that information, you're better able to make decisions about how to navigate a particular social situation. Okay. So, and I realize the print is small on this image, but this is a repeat a bit of what we were just saying, but I wanted to show you a visual of our interoceptive awareness. And so you can see on the left side, emotion, happiness, sadness, anger, embarrassment, all of those things. And notice that it's pointing to the brain. That's the end stop for those emotions. Emotions, we don't think our emotions, we feel them. So they end up in our minds, but they really begin in our bodies. Right. So we have thirst, muscle tension, cramps, right? For those who have them. So they seem to be pointing to this woman's abdomen area. So I'm assuming they mean menstrual cramps. And joint and muscle pain, right? In terms of social behavior, this is really important. Our bodies are constantly speaking to us about these, and again, we just discussed them, but Our self-awareness of the world around us. How should we show up in a certain situation? Perspective taking, I think, is also really important. Problem solving. Your body, we don't even think about consulting our bodies when it comes to things like this. We think it's all logical. And again, we see here that it's pointing to the brain, but all of these feelings are interoceptive. They come through our bodies. Right, so we have heart rate, hunger, satiation, and nausea, bathroom needs, again, body temperature. Oh, itching, right. So when you have an itch and you scratch it, right? So how, just for the science geeks out there, and I am certainly one of them, this is how interoception actually works. And this is a very simplified version, but we have sensory receptors in our bodies that send messages to the insular cortex deep inside our brain. So when you think about your brain, or in what you would imagine, oh, we can even look at this little green brain in the image there. Imagine just like right in the center of it, there is a mass, which is referred to as the insular cortex, like right in the center, like a chewy, delicious center. So there, the messages are decoded, and then we're alerted to the changes in our body state, right? So the butterflies in the stomach, for example. So we have body, so it's like it goes down, up, and back down. And so because we have the sensory receptors, so we'll talk about this more, but your body is like a lightning rod, right? And it's got so much external information coming at it, and it comes through the body, and then that information gets sent to the insular cortex. Those messages get decoded however they get decoded, and then we know that there's something that has changed within our body, right? So that's the basic concept. So it's down, up, and down. Okay, so we're going to leap into, and this is just the first week. So this is a suggested pathway for how interoception can work for us as a tool. We're going to be doing exercises throughout the course. And so I'm sure many of you are saying, I know exactly what my body feels like. I know all about it. That's great. But here's something that's also true. We can always go deeper with our awareness. So if you already have experience with felt body sense, I invite you to work with the next stage on the pathway. If you have not, and we are going to go through each one of them each week. But for example, this week we're going to work on just observing. Now that may be old news to you. Excellent. Then you might want to just start into the next phase, which is feeling deeper into it. But I don't want to talk about that yet because I don't want people to get confused, right? So the first week here, we're going to practice observing. That's all we're going to do, because a lot of people have not really experienced what it's like to observe. So I want to let's chat face to face for a second. This is what's important about this class. We can all sit here and go deep into our bodies, and it's like, yep, I feel that. Yep, I feel that. Great. What I'm inviting you to do is to do the work a little bit deeper and a little bit more personally, right? I can, and we're going to do this exercise in a second, but I can focus all my attention on the back of my neck, and I can feel my neck, right? All my attention is there. But what am I actually doing except being outside and observing it? What we're going to practice doing is going deeper into the experience of interoception, deeper into the felt body sense, so that we begin to use it as a tool. We're not just going to be the observers, but that's where we're going to start at this point. So let's do that. Observing, synthesizing, communicating, and integrating. Let's talk about them very briefly. Observing is what I just said. We're just going to observe our bodies. Synthesize is when we begin to merge with our bodies. Again, we will go over these when the weeks go on. We're going to actually work with the feelings. We're going to get more intimate with those feelings. Week 3 is communication. We're going to communicate with those feelings so that we're able to actually strike up a dialogue, or at least be really active listeners to what our body is trying to tell us. And in the 4th week, and this is the body as ally concept, we begin to really integrate what messages that we are receiving from our bodies so that we can work with them more practically. So let's do that. Let's do our first exercise. So what I invite you to do, and again, I'm sure you already know, but what you'll need for all of these exercises is obviously a quiet space, and get yourself comfy, right? So if you like to meditate sitting up, great. If you want to lie down, great. What matters is you being comfortable. But I will say this, if you have, and sometimes we'll be using headphones. You don't need them right now, but later in the course, we will use them. If you have an eye cover, that's great too, just so that you can really begin to pay attention to what's going on in your body. Right, quiet. Oh, and a notebook and a pen, because you're going to be doing some writing about your experiences. All right, so let's practice getting to know our bodies a little bit. And again, if this is old news to you, fantastic. Let's make it new. So here's your introduction to felt body sense. So what I'd like you to do, and I just took mine off, take your glasses off if you have glasses on. Make sure you don't have anything encumbering you in any way. And what I'd like you to do is get yourself comfortable, but attentive and aware. So if you're sitting, please make sure that your back is straight and your chin is tilted down a bit. We want to be able to have an elongation of the back of your spine, so we don't have any energy being cut off. Okay. And I will talk you through this, but I'm not going to talk too much now. So just begin to settle. And all I'd like you to do is begin to notice and observe. Now, if you are used to meditating, you may very well begin to focus on your breath. Beautiful. That's a great place to start. If you're feeling scattered at this point, bring that attention to the breath. Feel your lungs filling and releasing. If you're doing belly breathing, feel your belly expand and contract with each slow breath. So we're going to do, instead of box counting, I like 3s. So we're going to do inhale for 3, hold for 3, exhale for 3. So let's start that together. Inhaling for the count of 3. Hold for 3. And exhale for 3. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Hold 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3. One more time. I'm not going to count it. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Good. And now just let your breath come naturally. And I want you to be aware. This is something we're going to be doing throughout the class. This is what makes this different from other meditation classes or bodywork classes. When you have a moment of resistance, and it will come. This is stupid. I don't want to do this. I feel agitated. There may be a flicker of it. You may be already feeling it full on right now. Return to the breath and feel it. I don't want you to push it away. I want you to feel the agitation and keep breathing. When we meditate and we have thoughts that come into our minds, what do? We don't engage them. We let them pass like clouds in the sky. When we have a feeling of agitation or resistance, feel into it. So it's the opposite. I don't want you to push it away. I want you to drop into it and feel it fully. This is part of observation. You are observing by sitting in it. Now, that doesn't mean you're engaging in it, but you are witnessing resistance, and keep breathing. Okay, I'm not saying that's happening now, but when it does, and I will remind you, do not be freaked out. Go into it. Okay. So, deep breath. I'd like you to bring your attention to your feet. This is a beautiful, grounding beginning. Just be aware of your feet. What do they feel like? Are they tingling? Are they cold? Are they hot? You're not trying to change anything. You're just witnessing, observing. Good. Now bring your attention to your right wrist. All you're doing is don't move anything, don't touch anything. Just bring your attention to your right wrist. Witness it. As you do so, it may feel warm, it may feel tingly, it may feel nothing, and don't be discouraged by that, but just bring your attention there. This is a practice. If you are having trouble feeling or witnessing the feeling in your right wrist, imagine you've just put a wristband on, or a watch, or a bracelet, and see if that helps you to sense that area. And again, we're going very slowly here. So again, if you're having trouble, this time it's okay. If you're only for the people who are having trouble, take your other hand and grasp yourself around the right wrist, let go, and observe. Beautiful. Now bring your attention to your jaw. Just witness it, feel it. You may notice it's a little tense or tired. It may feel loose. No judgments, just witnessing. Excellent. Now bring your attention to your lower back. You may even want to radiate that out to your hips. And just feeling, witnessing. Like you're looking at a painting in a gallery. Only you're feeling it. Keep breathing. Focus your attention. Good. And finally, for this exercise, bring your attention to the spot right between your eyebrows, what we might call the third eye energy center, Ajna chakra. If you're having trouble bringing your attention there, imagine that behind your eyes, you're looking at the bridge of your nose. And that should bring the attention to your third eye energy center. So just let it. And again, if you're having trouble, take your ring finger of your left hand and press between your eyebrows and release. And then bring your attention. Good. Nice deep breath. We're going to do another count of 3 breath. 1, 2, 3 in. Hold for 3. And exhale for 3. Good. When you are ready, open your eyes, and then I want you to shake your body all out. Shake it all out. Now, that's it for this week. What I would ask you to do with your notebook and pen before I yammer on anymore is for you to write down, and you can do this as a free write or just as a journal entry. Write down your experience of your felt body sense, of your interoception as we moved through those areas. And I'll remind you again of what they were. We did the breathing. We did feet, right wrist, jaw, lower back, and third eye. Okay. All right. So what I'd like you to do as homework between now and next week is begin to practice observation of your body random times throughout the day. If you are taking a drink of water, really notice, where did that water go on my tongue? You know, on your tongue, where did it go? Like, where did it fall? Because it falls differently every time. Be aware of your body throughout this week. And as always, you can drop me a line if you have any questions, Rachel@rachelastartetherapy.com. Just put in the subject interoception question and I'll know. And I'm happy to guide you through whatever questions you might have. So until next week, enjoy being in your body, and we'll see you then.